few days ago, I took a trip to a small town in the Appalachian Mountains. I'm 32, and I usually work from home, but I wanted a change of scenery. I've always found local legends fascinating, so I thought I'd gather some stories. I didn't know how much I'd regret that decision. When I arrived, the place felt forgotten. There were a few shops, a diner, and some old houses falling apart. Weeds grew through cracks in the sidewalk. I stayed at a bed and breakfast. I hoped to meet locals and hear their tales. I thought it would be peaceful, but I couldn't shake what I felt. The first evening I went to the diner. I found an old newspaper clipping hidden in a corner. It was about a missing child from years ago. I felt curious and asked the locals if they remembered. Their faces changed. I noticed nervous glances and quiet whispers. It seemed like everyone had a different story. I wanted to dig deeper after that. The next few nights things got strange. I heard rustling sounds outside my window. At first I thought it was just animals. But then I heard soft cries echoing through the fog. I felt uneasy. My heart raced, and I didn't sleep well. I could have left town, but my curiosity took over. In the back of my mind, I felt like I was close to something big. I met a man at the diner, Hank. He seemed intense, his eyes darting around like he expected trouble. When I mentioned the missing child, he leaned in and said, "You need to leave this town." I didn't listen. Maybe I should have. I pieced together stories about the child. There were whispers of other disappearances happening long before. I felt like someone was always listening. My skin crawled like I wasn't alone. One night I decided to check out the old iron bridge. The moonlight shimmered on the creek, but I couldn't see how deep it went. I felt a chill. I heard branches snapping nearby, as if something was out there. My heart raced, and I thought about turning back. But then, I heard it. A whisper. "Adam," it said. I wasn't sure if I'd imagined it. My legs felt frozen. I wanted to run but couldn't. I think I was waiting for it to call my name again. Then it happened. I turned to leave and the air felt heavy. I'll never forget that feeling. It felt like something was right behind me, pulling me back. I needed to know. Was I next? Now I'm trying to write this down. I can't make sense of what happened that night. There's something the town is hiding. I'm not sure if I can trust my memories. What really happened to those children? Will I ever find out? I keep telling myself. I should have left when I had the chance, but I know I'm not done yet. The next morning I woke early. I glanced out my window. Fog cloaked the street, giving everything a ghostly feel. I could almost hear the echoes of last night's whispers. I needed to uncover more. The townsfolk knew something. I could feel it in my bones. I headed straight to the library. It was a small, dimly lit room filled with dusty books. The librarian, an elderly woman with thick glasses, looked at me suspiciously as I approached the counter. "Can I help you?" she asked, her voice sharp. "I'm looking for information on local legends, especially about the missing children," I said, trying to sound casual. Her expression softened, but her eyes still held caution. "That's a dark path you're choosing. Be careful what you dig up," she warned. I ignored her tone and asked if they had any archived newspapers. Maybe there were more articles about the missing children. She nodded and motioned toward a small door in the back. I spent hours flipping through brittle pages, my heart racing with each story I uncovered. The details about the children seeped into my mind. There had been reports of strange sightings near the creek, tales of shadowy figures lurking in the forest. Each account felt more chilling than the last, but one story caught my attention. It mentioned a place called The Hollow. Everyone had avoided the Hollow, the article said. Something sinister lingered there. I felt drawn to it. Was that my next step? I couldn't shake the feeling that I was missing something important. As I gathered my things, I noticed the librarian watching me. "You need to leave that place alone," she said again, her voice lower now. "Trust me." But my curiosity burned brighter than the fear she tried to instill. I thanked her and stepped outside. The fog had lifted slightly, but a heaviness remained in the air. I felt a pull toward the hollow. It was deep in the woods, unmarked and forgotten. I knew I had to see it for myself. I grabbed my backpack, threw in a flashlight, and set out. The path was overgrown. Thorny branches reached for me like fingers clutching my arms. I pressed on, the sun starting to dip below the trees. Each step felt wrong, like the woods themselves were warning me. A chill ran down my spine. I stopped more than once, feeling eyes on me. When I reached the edge of the hollow, I hesitated. It was a clearing surrounded by towering trees. The atmosphere shifted, thick with silence. Then I noticed something on the ground. A small, tattered shoe half buried in leaves. My heart raced. That shoe was too small to be an adult's. Panic washed over me, but I swallowed it deep. I crouched down to examine it. That's when I heard a distant sound, a child's laughter echoing through the trees. I looked up, my breath caught in my throat. The laughter stopped. A chill swept through me, followed by an unsettling realization. I wasn't alone. I turned to leave, but the path I came from felt altered. The trees loomed larger, and shadows flitted between them. I could almost hear whispers again calling my name. I needed to escape. I turned back toward the way I thought I'd come, but everything felt wrong. Something was closing in. Then I caught a glimpse of movement. It wasn't the wind, it was a figure, a glimpse of a child standing among the trees. "Help me," it said. That was the moment I knew I had to run. I ran deeper into the woods, fear driving my legs. But the shadows followed, and with each step I felt them closing in. I sprinted into the tangled underbrush, branches scratching at my arms and legs. My heart hammered in my chest, pounding louder than my footsteps. The laughter echoed behind me, mocking and distant. I dared not look back, afraid of what I might see. Every twist and turn felt disorienting. The trees pressed in, their trunks gnarled and twisted like clutching hands. I stumbled over roots and fallen limbs, desperately trying to maintain my balance. The creeping shadows seemed to dance just at the edges of my vision. "Help me." The child's voice lured me. It felt like a thread pulling at the very center of my being. But I couldn't stop. I had to escape. Suddenly I broke through the dense thicket and found myself at the edge of a steep bank that led down to a creek. The water was murky, churning over rocks with an unsettling rhythm. I could hear whispers blending with the sound of the water swirling around me. "Stay. Stay. Join us." Panic surged within me. What did that voice mean? I had to push the thoughts away. I glanced back into the trees, half expecting to see the figure. But the woods were silent now. I crouched down, taking a moment to collect myself. My breathing was ragged and my heart still raced. I stared at the creek, trying to figure out my next move. Just as I gathered the courage to cross, I noticed something shining under the water's surface. Leaning closer, I realized it was an object, something metallic. It glinted ominously, beckoning me. I scanned my surroundings, still on high alert. The air felt thick, and I sensed the presence of something waiting in the shadows. Gingerly, I reached into the water. The icy chill shot through my fingers as I pulled the object out. It was a locket, tarnished and filthy. I opened it, and inside was a photograph of a little girl. Her eyes seemed to stare right through me, filled with an eerie sadness that chilled my bones. That's when the laughter returned, louder now, echoing in a cacophony that enveloped me. The trees seemed to sway, bending inward, as if they were closing in around me. I could feel their pull, an invitation and a warning woven into the sound. I tucked the locket in my pocket, my instincts urging me to leave now before whatever magic lurked in these woods could ensnare me. I turned to follow the creek upstream, hoping it would lead me back to safety. But with each step, the atmosphere thickened. The shadows hung closer and the whispers wove through the air like threads of a web, tightening around me. I felt a surge of dread. Then everything went dark. The sun must have dipped behind the trees, but then came the unmistakable sound of footsteps behind me, heavy, deliberate. I turned, and my pulse quickened. Someone, or something, was there, lurking just out of sight. My instincts screamed at me to run. But before I could take a step, a voice broke through the darkness. You shouldn't have come here. My stomach dropped. I needed to get away. I had to find a way out of the hollow. But what waited in the shadows could be the very thing I had been drawn here to confront. I couldn't move. The voice behind me was low, almost soothing, but it chilled me to my core. You shouldn't have come here. I wanted to argue, to demand answers, but my voice was lost in the thick air. Instead, I felt my body responding on instinct, pivoting toward the sound. I peered into the dark, squinting to make out any details. The rustling of leaves sent shivers down my spine. A silhouette stepped forward, revealing a figure wrapped in tattered clothing. Its face was obscured by shadows, but I could make out a pair of pale, unblinking eyes. They bore into me, both curious and predatory. "Why are you here?" it asked. The voice carried a familiarity that twisted my stomach. I considered running, but my feet felt glued to the murky ground. "You came for her, didn't you?" Something in my chest tightened. "Who?" I managed, my heart racing. The figure stepped closer, illuminating itself in a sliver of moonlight. It was a woman with long hair that hung in matted knots. Her face was gaunt, as if she had been evading something for far too long. "The girl in the locket," she said, and a tremor of recognition raced through me. I fumbled for the locket in my pocket, the metal cool against my fingers. I lifted it, and the woman's eyes went wide with yearning. "She needs your help. You shouldn't have come empty-handed." The words clawed at my mind. What help could I give? I didn't even know who she was. I opened the locket again, staring at the photograph. The girl's expression felt painfully familiar, like a fragment of a dream I couldn't grasp. The laughter swelled anew, echoing through the trees. It danced around us like a malicious breeze. "They're drawing you in," the woman warned, her tone shifting from curious to concerned. "You must leave this place." But leave? It felt impossible. My curiosity was gnawing, but so was my fear. "I can't," I whispered, my breath hitching. "I need to know what this is all about." Her eyes darkened. "You don't understand what you invite in. They feast on those who linger too long." Her voice trembled, thick with urgency. "You must choose now." Suddenly, an invisible force seemed to tug at me. The shadows twisted and the laughter turned menacing. It rumbled like thunder, swallowing the last remnants of light. The underbrush crackled as something shifted within it, something far bigger than the woman before me. "Now," she urged again, "choose." And just like that, everything around me turned chaotic. Figures loomed in the shadows, faceless and shadowy. The laughter crescendoed into a terrifying chorus. I felt the weight of their eyes on me. I was trapped between curiosity and survival. That's when I spotted the creek again, moonlight glinting off its surface. It seemed to be beckoning. An instinct surged within me. In that moment, I knew I had to decide. Do I trust the woman and flee, or do I brave the shadows to uncover the truth behind the locket? I took a shaky breath. The creek shimmered like a promise in the darkness, calling to me with a certain urgency. It felt like the only thing separating me from whatever lurked in the shadows. The woman's warning echoed in my ears, a frantic alarm. I needed to decide before the chaos swallowed me whole. "Let's go," I blurted, my voice trembling as I turned toward the creek. I felt the woman's eyes widen in shock, but there was no going back. I couldn't shake the feeling that finding the truth was the only way to break free from this nightmare. I stepped forward, the soft ground sucking at my shoes as I moved. The laughter morphed into whispers, swirling around me like ghosts sharing secrets. My heart raced, but I pressed on, drawn by the mysterious light that danced on the water. Suddenly, I heard the woman's voice again, more urgent this time. "You're making a mistake." But I was already crossing the threshold of the creek, the cool water splashing against my ankles. As I waded deeper, I turned back toward her. What if she needs my help? What if this is the key? "Those shadows don't just linger for fun," she shouted, her figure half illuminated by the moonlight. "They want you. They want her. Don't become another sacrifice." The cold water churned around my legs and panic surged through me. I shot back a glance at the path behind me. The shadows were closing in, their shapes twisting and morphing. I could almost make out faces that seemed to crawl from the depths of my mind, a mix of nightmares and forgotten memories. "Get out," she pleaded, desperation deepening her voice. I hesitated. A part of me wanted to turn back, but another part insisted on pushing forward. The figure that had emerged from the shadows, was she a warning, or was she part of the dark force that haunted this place? Something was pulling me, a string of fate that felt both inviting and foreboding. Just as I readied myself to retreat, a figure shot through the trees behind the woman. It moved fast, almost too fast for my eyes to catch. A low growl echoed, the sound sending jolts of fear down my spine. Whatever it was not friendly. "Run!" the woman screamed, panic slicing through her voice. "They're coming for you!" That was enough to break my trance. I spun back toward the creek, my instincts screaming to flee. But as I took a step forward, something seized me from behind. A cold grip wrapped around my arm, pulling me back. The laughter morphed into a deafening roar. I turned my head just in time to see the woman vanish into shadows, her figure swallowed whole. My heart raced as the specter pulled me, tugging me toward the other darkness that lurked beneath the surface of the night. Desperation rose within me, a burning need to escape. I could see the sparkle of the creek's surface, but it felt farther away than I could fathom now. And then, with a force that felt almost sentient, the shadows pushed me forward into the unknown. I stumbled, faced with a choice. Dive into the darkness of the creek, my only path to uncovering my reality, or remain trapped in the vile grip of the unseen forces that wanted me now more than ever. As I fought against the pull, my fingers brushed something half submerged in the water. A small shimmering object caught my eye. That was when I saw it. A glimmering pendant half buried in the mud beckoned to me. It sparkled like a fallen star, a stark contrast to the haunting darkness around me. Instinctively, I stretched my hand toward it. The sharp tug of shadows on my back intensified, fighting against my desire to reach for the pendant. I had to choose. Let the shadows win or confront whatever mystery lay in my grasp. I seized it, yanking it free from its earthen prison. As I held the pendant up to the moonlight, I saw its shape, a delicate, twisted crescent adorned with strange carvings. It pulsed with a warmth that felt alien, yet familiar, a whisper of connection that made sense in this chaos. But the feeling was fleeting, overtaken by a wave of icy dread as I sensed the darkness shifting. The grip around my arm loosened but didn't let go entirely. I glanced back. My heart raced as I caught a glimpse of the creature behind me. Its eyes glowed like dying embers, its form indistinct but massive enough to radiate menace. A growl rumbled low in its throat, a sound meant to instill fear. A desperate urge to flee coursed through me, yet I couldn't look away from the pendant. The markings, were they a warning or a guiding light? I clutched it tighter, feeling a flicker of strength surge through me. This was a different kind of power, one that surged against the shadows trying to ensnare me. With renewed determination, I turned back to the creek and plunged my arm down again, searching for more hidden secrets beneath the water's surface. I fumbled and my fingers brushed against something slick and cold. Pulling it free, I discovered a second item, an old rusted key. Its sharp edges were engraved with the same peculiar symbols as the pendant. My breath caught in my throat. What doors might this key open? What hidden truths were waiting just beyond my reach? Suddenly the growl erupted again, more thunderous this time, snapping me back to my reality. The creature was stalking closer, its patience wearing thin. I faced the creek. The water thrashed around me, reflecting the madness closing in. I couldn't comprehend if I was about to die or if I was on the cusp of a revelation. Just as the darkness lunged at me, I turned and dove into the creek, the icy water enveloping me. The shock hit my body like a slap, but I remained focused. I kicked my way through the current, hoping the pendant and key would lead me somewhere safe, or at least away from the nightmare behind me. As I broke the surface, gasping for air, the world around me felt different. The shadows had receded, finding their footing on the bank, watching but not advancing. I climbed out of the creek, panting, and took a moment to collect my thoughts. Before I could even comprehend what was happening, The pendant began to glow softly in my hand, casting a pale light into the surrounding darkness. It illuminated a pathway ahead, one that cut through the trees, leading toward a clearing just up ahead. I had to follow it. But as I took my first step down the glowing path, a sharp voice echoed behind me, shattering the stillness. "You shouldn't have taken those." I froze. Someone was waiting in the shadows after all. I turned slowly, my heart thudding in my chest. The voice came from a figure cloaked in shadow, barely visible against the night. The air felt heavy, pressing down on me, as if the darkness itself was alive. "Who are you?" I managed to stammer, my grip tightening on the pendant and key. The figure stepped into the break of moonlight. A woman, her features sharp and angular, with wild hair streaked with gray. Her eyes were piercing, filled with an unsettling blend of fear and knowledge. "You have no idea what you've unleashed," she said, her voice trembling slightly. "What do you mean?" I could sense the shadows shifting behind her as if they were waiting, biding their time. "I just found these." I held out the pendant and key, hoping to gain some sense of clarity. Instead, her gaze dropped, eyes flitting over the strange carvings. "The pendant binds," she whispered, almost to herself. "It binds you to what's lurking in the dark. And the key. Oh, the key unlocks more than doors." Her voice twisted with a warning that made the hairs on my arms stand on end. A chill crawled up my spine at her words. "Unlocks what? What darkness?" But before I could press further, the growl erupted again, closer this time, a growl filled with hunger. The woman's eyes widened in alarm. "Run!" she shouted. "It's here!" I didn't need to be told twice. I turned on my heel and sprinted down the illuminated path, the pendant casting an otherworldly glow to guide me. Panic surged through my veins, but the sharp voice of the woman echoed in my mind. The darkness wasn't just a backdrop. It was alive and hungry. I was faster than I had ever been, adrenaline propelling me forward. I dodged branches and roots, desperate to stay one step ahead of whatever was chasing me. The glow of the pendant flickered with each pounding step, its light seeming to pulse in time with my racing heart. Then I stumbled into the clearing, a vast open space bathed in moonlight. My breath came in ragged gasps. I turned around, searching for the woman. She hadn't followed. She had vanished back into the shadows. But I had bigger problems. The growling had stopped, replaced by eerie silence. It sent ripples of unease down my spine. I took a moment to try and gather my thoughts. "What do I do now?" I whispered to myself. The moon cast long shadows across the clearing, and for a split second, I felt as if I could breathe. That was until I heard a low whisper, barely audible, drifting between the trees. "Come to us." I spun around, eyes wide. The shadows were shifting again, forming into shapes that seemed to beckon me closer. My resolve faltered. I shouldn't have come this far, yet the pendant pulsed brightly, urging me toward the whispers. I took a cautious step forward, drawn into the mystery. "What do you want?" I called out, my voice trembling but louder than the whispers. The shadows hung there, waiting. And in that moment I realized I had awakened something that wouldn't easily let me go. Then I spotted something glinting in the grass just beyond the reach of the moonlight. My pulse quickened. I couldn't ignore it, not now. My instincts screamed at me to turn away, but curiosity pushed me onward. That's when it happened. The shadows surged forward, coalescing into a form I was dreadfully familiar with. The creature had found me. The creature emerged from the inky darkness, its shape a twisted mockery of a familiar form. I froze, heart racing again before my instincts kicked in. I turned to run, but the ground felt uneven beneath my feet. The pendant around my neck warmed, almost pulsing against my skin. "You shouldn't have come here." It snarled, its voice low and guttural, filled with an unnatural hunger. A shiver raced down my spine as I recognized the creature, a manifestation of something I thought I had left behind. The memories of my childhood nightmares surged back. "Leave me alone," I shouted, even as my legs moved of their own accord, propelling me deeper into the woods. I glanced back, and the creature was following, eyes glowing in the dark like burning coals. Panic clawed at my throat. I had to find a way to escape. In the distance, I saw a faint light flickering through the trees. It could have been hope or more danger, but I had to try. I veered toward the light, dodging branches that seemed to reach out, trying to hinder my path. The whispers returned, swirling around me in a cacophony of incoherent voices. "Come closer," they seemed to chant. I pushed through the last of the undergrowth and stumbled into a small clearing, lit by the wavering glow of a fire. An old cabin sat in front of me, its wooden structure battered and worn, but it felt more like shelter than the darkness that pursued me. I dashed for the door, yanking it open as the creature's growl echoed behind me. Inside, the cabin was filled with strange artifacts, crystals, old maps, and what looked like alchemical equipment. It was a treasure trove of the esoteric. My eyes darted around, and then they landed on an old book lying open on a table. The pages were yellowed with age, filled with words that practically hummed with energy. I had no time to understand what they meant. I flipped through the pages, desperate to find a way to defend myself. Just as I spotted an incantation, I heard the door crash behind me. The creature surged in, filling the cabin with shadows. "Why won't you just join us?" it hissed, voice dripping with distorted emotion. I felt the pendant grow warmer still, almost as if it were urging me to tap into its power. My hands shook as I grasped it tighter. "Get back!" I shouted, and to my surprise a wave of energy erupted from the pendant, pushing the creature back a few steps. It shrieked, a sound that pierced through the walls and vibrated in my bones. But the reprieve was brief. The creature recovered quickly, its eyes narrowing. "You think you can deny me?" it growled, and suddenly the room felt colder. I needed to make a choice. I looked back at the book, but before I could finish the incantation, everything around me dimmed. The shadows thickened, dragging me into an abyss of darkness. And then, like a whisper from the depths, I heard, "Your fate is bound to what you've awakened. Follow the light or lose yourself forever." I had only seconds to decide. Would I embrace the pendant's power, or would I succumb to the shadows? The answer hung in the air, and as the darkness closed in, everything went silent. In an instant, I was pulled from the darkness, my surroundings returning with a rush. I found myself back in the cabin, but something was different. The air crackled around me, alive with energy. The pendant felt like it was burning a path through my resolve, urging me to act. "Choose," the voice echoed. It didn't come from the shadows, but from within me. I felt the pulse of the pendant sync with my heartbeat, grounding me. In that moment, clarity emerged amidst the chaos. I had to embrace this strange power. With my heart pounding, I turned back to the book. I scanned the pages, looking for the right words. The creature was still looming, its eyes smoldering with hunger, but its expression flickered with uncertainty. I began to chant, slowly at first, feeling the vibrations of the words resonate in my bones. The creature recoiled slightly. "No, you don't know what you're doing," it howled, urgency seeping into its words. But I pressed on, feeling a swell of strength as the ancient language wrapped around me like a shield. The pendant blazed against my chest, amplifying my voice. The shadows in the room danced and writhed as if caught in a storm. "You think you can keep me?" I shouted, growing more emboldened. "I am not afraid of you." Suddenly the shadows recoiled, giving way to a sharp beam of light that burst from the pendant. It shot forward, striking the creature square in the chest. It screeched, the sound reverberating through the cabin. I could see fear etched on its grotesque features as it struggled against my newfound power. But then, without warning, the light twisted and pulled back. The pendant dimmed, and I staggered backward, stunned. The creature seized the moment, lunging forward, claws outstretched. "Stop!" a voice suddenly called from the darkness outside the cabin. I whipped around, my breath hitching in my throat. A figure stood at the threshold, illuminated by the flickering firelight behind them. They were shrouded in shadows, but I could make out the outline of an ancient staff in their hand. "Turn it back," the stranger commanded, their voice breaking through the chaos like a beacon. I hesitated, confusion swirling in my mind. "Who are you?" I yelled over the chaos. The creature was regaining its bravado, eyes locked on the new arrival with a mix of fury and fear. "Do as I say," the figure pressed. "You're not the only one connected to that pendant." The words echoed like a drum, reminding me of everything I had buried. An understanding flickered in the recesses of my mind. What other connections existed? In that fragile moment between decision and despair, something vital shifted in me. My fate was not only mine to control, it was intertwined with this stranger's purpose as well. I didn't know who they were, but I sensed a dangerous alliance was forming. Before I could make sense of it all, the creature surged toward me, fueled by a fresh wave of rage. I braced myself, not just for the creature but for the unknown destiny that awaited me. The cabin's shadows pulsed with life, and so too did the mysteries still hidden within the pendant. Then everything went dark once more. When I opened my eyes, the world felt different. The cabin had vanished, and instead I found myself standing at the edge of a familiar clearing. I was back by the creek, but now it shimmered with an ethereal light that seemed to hum with life. The oppressive shadows were gone, replaced by a serene glow that enveloped me like a protective embrace. I looked down at my hands. The pendant still hung from my neck, glowing softly. I could still feel the weight of the key in my pocket. Somehow I felt lighter but changed, as if some unseen bond had been severed. Had I truly escaped? I scanned my surroundings, half expecting the creature to spring from the depths of the trees, yet all was eerily silent. The laughter that had once haunted me was replaced by the soothing sound of flowing water. I took a step toward the creek, drawn by the captivating light. But my heart raced as images flashed in my mind. Faces of children lost, the woman in the woods, the countless warnings. It all felt like a dream weaving itself through the strands of my memory, taunting me with unanswered questions. Had I truly broken free? Or was this an illusion meant to lure me back? With determined curiosity, I approached the water. Gazing at the reflection, I no longer saw just myself. I saw glimpses of the missing children, their faces filled with longing and sorrow. A chill crept down my spine. What had I done? Had I unleashed something that could never be drawn back? The creek's surface rippled, and I felt the echo of the pendant calling to me. Shapes formed beneath the water, shadows of what had been. The memories of the children were intertwined with the whispers of the woods, ominous yet saddening. A rush of understanding swept through me, but with it came the unsettling knowledge that knowledge without action was futile. "Help us!" a voice called softly, clear and indistinguishable from the gurgling of the stream. My breath hitched. Was it them? I shook my head, grasping the pendant tighter, feeling its warmth pulse against my skin. It thrummed with energy, urging me to listen, to dive deeper into the mystery. In the distance, a flickering shape caught my eye. Distorted silhouettes danced within the trees at the edge of the woods, beckoning me forward. I looked back at the creek, torn. What if everything I had been chasing was an unbreakable cycle? What if the darker side of the town still lingered on the outskirts of my mind, waiting to corrupt my will again? I remembered the woman's last warning, and a part of me wondered what dangers still lurked beyond the light of the creek. But despite the haunting past clinging to my thoughts, there was another part, a deeper instinct that told me this journey was necessary. I had to confront the darkness that whispered through the branches. I took a deep breath and glanced back at the beckoning shapes, making my decision. With one last look at the inviting creek, I turned and walked toward the shadows, the pendant glowing in tandem with my resolve as I crossed the boundary into the unknown. As I stepped into the woods, a shiver skated along my spine. The air buzzed with anticipation, and with each step, I felt the energy around me shift. The silhouettes moved, pulsing with life, drawing me further into the hollow. Was I about to confront the heart of a nightmare, or had I finally begun to understand its true nature? I still don't know the answer. The whispers began to swirl again, echoing in my ears. Memories of the children swam through my thoughts, their pleas intermingling with the laughter I had once feared. But now, it felt more like a chorus welcoming me to their world, a world filled with shadows and light, intricate and elusive. And in that moment I understood. I would never truly escape, nor would I fully uncover the truth of this town. But I had the power to change the narrative, however terrifying it may be. So I stepped forward, ready to face whatever lay ahead. The shadows stirred and the path unfurled before me, tangled yet promising. In the end, the darkness was no longer just a threat, it was a catalyst for exploration. And as I walked deeper into the woods, I couldn't help but marvel at the lingering question. Was it the town that haunted me? Or was I becoming part of its legend?